Hey, before I kick off the podcast, I just want to shout out Next Door Clothing. Next Door, a clothing brand based out of Bondi in Sydney. They're making really nice jeans and shirts and hats. So go and check out their full range at nextdoorsydney.com. They're also artists, so you can go and check out a range of art. They put on rad parties, and I love what they're doing. So nextdoorsydney.com for the full range. Man, we're rolling. Okay, this is for Clementine and Otis. Okay, so shout out to our sponsor today, Indosol. Get some slides or flip-flops made from repurposed motor vehicle tires. They look rad, and you can do your part for the environment by becoming a conscious consumer. So if you go to indosol.com, that's INDOSOLE.com, and you'll be automatically directed to the distributor in your region. Delivery is fast, and if you use code THT at checkout, you will get a 15% discount, so get on it. Also, the survival apnea course. Now, if you want to learn how to hold your breath and actually build your ocean resilience and your confidence in times of stress and duress, this is the course for you. Founder Augusto Vegas is a big wave surfer from Peru, and he's developed this course in line with free divers and big wave surfers to build their capacity to hold their breath longer underwater and in turbulence and in difficult situations. And it just translates into confidence in the real world and also helps with like deep meditative states. And since doing the course myself, it's actually improved my ability to meditate for longer periods of time and be more present and be more comfortable under pressure. If you go to survivalapnea.com, that's survivalapnea.com. And if you use code THT podcast at checkout, you'll get a 20% discount. So yes, let's go.
I'm having a good time.
You are?
Yeah.
I can tell.
And we are rolling too.
Terrible happy talks. Terrible happy talks. Terrible happy talks. Terrible happy talks. Today's guest is Taylor Jensen. Taylor is a husband, father, and one of the most successful and dominant competitive longboarders in the world. With 3 WSL World Longboard Championship titles and numerous other national titles in both America and Australasia, his career resume is impressive to say the least. However, at his core, I see a humble family man who is driven by progression over accolades and titles. His progressive and sometimes aggressive approach to longboarding is not only jaw-dropping, but also symbolic of someone manifesting a true affinity with the ocean and the natural environment. Today, Taylor is with me live from California to share his journey, experiences, challenges, and hopes for the future. Taylor Jensen, welcome.
Thank you. Stoked to be on.
Dude, stoked to have you, man. So for the listeners, can you just describe where you are at the moment today in California?
I am in Oceanside, California, which is North San Diego County. Right now outside, it is howling offshore winds, Santa Ana winds, but it's raining, which is just kind of weird weather for here. Normally when it's howling offshore Santa Ana's, it's crystal clear and beautiful and warm, but today's cold and rainy and a little bit funny, but the wind's offshore and the waves have been good.
I've heard that California has just had this crazy run of swell.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this. My whole life growing up, I've never seen a month straight, like a solid month. We came back from Australia on December 12th, and every day since then has been 4 foot or bigger and perfect conditions every day. Like offshore wind in the morning, no wind in the afternoon, sheet glass, beautiful sunsets. Normally you get a week or two of that a year, but like a month straight of flawless conditions with 4 foot plus swell. Yeah, it's been crazy. I've never surfed this much in California in my life. It's insane. I'm stoked. I'm pumped. Like in the middle of a pandemic, to be able to go to the beach 2-3 times a day and surf really good waves 5 minutes down the street from my house it's epic. I'm stoked.
Is that something that's kept you sane through the pandemic? The fact that you can still surf?
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
surfing for me is it's a big part of how I get through every day. It's kind of, in a way, it's a coping mechanism for me that I can just kind of get out there and clear my mind and just sort of enjoy the moment and process things, whatever I'm going through or whatever things I need to think about and kind of get in order. Surfing gives me that opportunity to process and just be at one with my thoughts and not really have to engage or like I have 2 young kids, be with the kids and stuff. It's just constant. So just to kind of have that solidarity and that moment of peace, it's how I get through. And yeah, I think it's definitely been a huge part of getting through the pandemic and remaining calm with it, I guess, and not watching news and media outlets 24/7 and getting caught up in all the negativity and the stress that's involved with that. Like, I don't know, I get really affected by situations like that. So for me, like I don't watch the news at all. I just can't. I can't process. It doesn't work for me. So it's good for me. Like surfing's, yeah, it's just another way of me to kind of get that alone time in a way, but also just to let my freedom of expression go. That's kind of how I get things off my chest and I surf it out. That's what works. I mean, yeah, it's a good thing for me to surf. I'm not a happy person when I'm not surfing.
And I completely relate to those things as well. It does the same for me. However, I guess my question for you is, as a pro surfer, where is it safe to say that surfing's your like primary source of income?
Yeah, 100%.
Is that
yeah? That's my only source of income. That's it.
My question is, when does it feel like a job for you?
Honestly, never. It can feel like a job when I'm getting on a plane to go to a contest where I know I'm not going to get good surf, and I'm leaving better surf than where I'm going. Things like situations like that, or I'm going somewhere that I just, I don't really want to go, or a contest that I'm just not feeling like competing. Like things like that can kind of make it feel more like a job. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like my office is the beach. Like how in what world, I'd be a pretty, I don't know, spoiled brat to say that surfing feels like a job, because like I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do growing up as a kid. Like I wanted to be a professional surfer. I wanted to make a living. I wanted my office to be at the beach. And I'm actually like, I'm living my fantasy as a child. So I'm just trying to keep that in perspective at all times. And there's moments for sure where I'm like, man, I just don't want to be doing this right now. But it's all in your perspectives and taking a step back and just saying, dude, I'm at the beach. I'm going surfing. Like what? Like pull your head in basically and wake up. Like you can't be, I don't know.
So you do have to do that sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. I have to do it, yeah periodically.
Hey,
but
Taylor, just one little thing with your microphone. It's rubbing up against your shirt. Sorry, it'll make a difference to the audio. Do you mind? No sorry to do tech stuff. Yeah. With your current sponsorship situation, how much expectation is there on you to actually compete?
Well, look, given COVID situation, there is no contest. They're dead. And we've seen what the WSL has done over the last few months, and having to start and stop and cancel, and it's on, it's off. It's, it's a nightmare. I don't think that's really going to change over the course of the next 12 months. Just realistic expectations. I think it's going to be really hard. One, for everybody to be able to travel. Two, for them to run events safely. I think it's a real challenge. There's no pressure for me to compete. I mean, my primary source of income is making beautiful surfboards with Dan that work really well and the public enjoying them. So, I mean, as long as I'm out surfing and I can create content and always working on new projects with Dan and just, I get to have a good time and create surfboards. Like that's my primary job.
That's what's in your contract. Do they put that sort of stuff in a contract? No,
my contract's pretty loose.
Okay.
I've been with Firewire for over 10 years now. 3 world titles. Like I'm at a place in my career where I'm very content with my titles and what I have. But at the same time, I still want more. I'm not stepping away. I have no interest in retirement or whatsoever at this stage, but just with contests off, I'm just kind of gearing myself more towards the creation and, just surfing a little bit differently. Like, I guess I was thinking about it this morning, actually. For the last sort of 15 years, I've surfed for points. Like when I've gone out in a free surf, I've surfed as if I'm trying to get a 9 or a 10 in a contest. And without contests influencing my surfing, my lines are changing. Like I'm drawing different lines. I'm looking for different things on a wave. It's really cool. Like while competition can evolve the sport rapidly and creates progression in that sense, having done it for the amount of time that I have, I'm finding a lot of inspiration in progressing away from contests and just drawing my own line and doing my own thing and kind of looking at things like, hey, I've always wanted to try that, but I was a little worried I was going to get hurt because I'd have a contest in 6 weeks. And now I'm like, well, there's no contest. Let's go. Like, it's on. Let's go. Like, I can do that now, or I can take a trip to wherever I wanted to take once we're allowed to travel and, go surf that wave that I always wanted to surf. But the opportunity never arose because I was focused on getting to whatever contest it was. And that's where all my budget went. So it's just been really nice to kind of take a step back from the contest scene and look at things through kind of a different eye in a way, and just kind of see where I'm going to, just look at things I've always wanted to do and never had the opportunity, or places I've wanted to go and never been because my contest didn't take me there. It's just kind of put together a different bucket list than I've had for the last while, and start getting ready to tick some boxes.
That's great, man. And you kind of answered a question I had for you, because someone who has, like you said, 3 world titles, I think one of the stats I read, you've had over 50 wins or competitive wins and numerous titles in Australasia and America. Now that maybe, is there a sense of contentment that you've achieved some of those key goals, competitive goals that you originally might have set out for? Now that you've done that, are you surfing, like you've sort of said it, you're surfing more free and more progressively? Were you doing that anyway, despite COVID?
In a way, look, I kind of put together a different list of things that I wanted to do. Moving forward over the next, I set things out like kind of 5 years in my head of different boxes I want to tick and different sort of tracks that I want to take, both professionally and personally. And look, I was kind of heading that way a little ways. Like the Longboard Tour doesn't have 11 events. Like we're not, our tours aren't huge. There's not a ton of money in contests. It's more just personal for me. Like I won a world title and I lost money doing the tour that year. Like,
gotcha.
That's the reality of what longboarding is at the moment. So it was never sort of chasing money or anything like that. It was just like I'd set a goal like, hey, I want to win 3 world titles. And I chased that for as long as it took to finally get there. So now, I guess I've just kind of set different goals. If I want to achieve X, Y, and Z, and let's see if I can do it. I mean, it was the same thing. Like my early goal was I want to win a world title. Just one. I just want to win one. And then when you win that, you go from this massive peak of like elation and achievement to like almost the next day down in the depths again. Because it's like you achieved your goal, but now what? You know what I mean? Like I spent 11 years on the world tour trying to win 1 world title. 11 years went into one moment, 1 heat, 1 contest, and then it was over the next day. And then I remember sitting on the corner of the bed and just kind of thinking like, is that it? Like I just spent 11 years for that moment. Is that all I get? Like what do I do now? Where do I go? Like the obvious answer is win another world title, but in my head, it's like, is that something that I want? Is it? Yeah, it's a trip. It's like, I almost get emotional just talking about it because it's really weird. It's a weird feeling of what next when you've hit that high and then you start going back down the hill because there's nowhere else to go. You've achieved your ultimate goal as a professional. Like that was my ultimate goal for 11 years. I got it. And then what? Like, it's just a really weird thing. And you hear Olympians and stuff talk about it. Like Michael Phelps is very open about it. And There's a new documentary, I think it's called The Weight of Gold, where there's various different Olympians and athletes who speak about it, and it's very real. And I think it's real on every level for every human. Like when you set a goal and you achieve that goal, on the other side of that accomplishment, there's a very slippery slope. And sort of how do you recover and set new goals and start on another path upward when you've already reached the top of the mountain that you were trying to climb? Like where's the next, you know what I mean? Mountains don't go forever. You hit a peak and then you're going to hit a valley and then you got to start climbing again.
I mean, I guess the other thing too is because you've invested so much of your time and energy into it, you neglect developing other skill sets in terms of career and income earning ability. And I know that's a problem for Olympians as well. Like a friend of mine who's an Olympic, he was an Olympic downhill skier. He invested his whole life into being an Olympic, a world tour skier, and then finished, and he realized he had no earning capacity. He had no skills for acquiring a job unless he stayed in skiing in some capacity, which was a very difficult industry to stay in. I mean, are these things that concern you as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, early on in my career, I didn't think about it. I think after I won that first world title, it kind of set in, like I need to have something else. Up to that stage, I'd identified myself as a professional longboarder. Like that's who I was at my core. And then you realize that someday that dream dries up, whether it's 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. At some point, you're not going to be creating an income off of your ability to ride a wave. So then where does that go? Does it take you, like in the surf industry, most people end up becoming team managers or reps or work for the company that they rode for or coaches or whatever it is. So that's always options, but a lot of that doesn't really interest me. I don't know, I've definitely started looking outside of the surf industry. Real estate interests me. Things like that. I like flipping houses. Me and my wife have flipped a couple of houses. It's fun projects. I got really into woodworking when I tore my MCL, and I got super into woodworking because I needed a project. I was like going stir crazy, and my wife was going to divorce me because I was just being a lunatic because I can't sit still. You know what I mean? Like she wasn't actually going to, but that's how, I'm sure I'm not easy to be around when I can't get in the ocean. So I've definitely gone down those roads. It's just, whatever happens. For now, I'm just going to keep pursuing what I'm pursuing. And
you actually enjoyed flipping houses?
I loved it.
Really? Because I've done it once.
I like real estate. I like being hands-on with it though. Like I like getting in there and demolishing things and building vanities out of live edge slabs. And I like it. I really like it. So, and it's something you can do in the surf junk. You know what I mean? Like you can still surf in the morning and then go do that work on the house and then come back. And if the surf gets good, you can run off and go surf again. So I guess I like it because I have the freedom to do what I want to do at the same time as being productive and financially, getting something out of it. And also I like kind of the gamble of it in a weird way. Like I kind of like that, you're buying a house and then you're going to flip it. And at the end of the road, you're going to make X amount of money, but are you really? You know what I mean? Like, are you really? What if the property market slips? What if this, that, or the other happens? And I don't like selling houses. We've only sold one and I didn't like it at all. I like keeping them and renting them. And that seems like a better way of a passive income in the long road, if you can somehow. So it's just, it's fun. I like design. I like stuff like that. So maybe that's why I like surfboard designs, is I get to create, and it's kind of that outlet. I'm not a good artist or anything like that. So maybe that's my creativity patch.
So you mentioned that you're shaping boards with Dan Mann, correct? Dan's
shaping boards with my input, basically.
Okay, so that's my question. Have you ever explored, going in a shaper's direction?
I shaped a board.
Right.
It didn't work. And that was kind of the end of the road where I realized that I should just leave it up to the professionals. I mean, look, I had fun doing it, but I'm an overthinker. Like I overanalyze everything. I just have that mindset where I look at things too many times. So yeah, shaping's not a good thing for me because I'll just whittle away at it until it just disappears and it's 1.5 inches thick. And yeah, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like that's just, I'll start chasing the tiniest bump in the rail. And next thing I know, one side's 1/2 inch narrower than the other or something. Like I get too caught up in like a little detail and it's over. So for me, it was like, no, it's not for me.
Do you think that that's been something that's actually helped you as a professional surfer, though, in developing your skill set?
Yeah. I mean, I have a ton of appreciation for what it takes to. Oh, yeah. Yeah. In a way, I mean, overanalyzing things helps. But at the same time, it can hurt. Like, I feel like when I won my 3 world titles, each time I entered some mental space where I say I didn't care, because that's what it felt like. It felt like I didn't care, but everything was just flowing so smoothly. It was like nothing was going to stop me. And I didn't have to think about it. And I didn't have to like make critical decisions. I didn't feel any pressure. It was just like, whatever. Like I was having fun. I was winning every heat. It was just like bang, bang, bang. I entered some weird state where it was like, yeah, well, the only way I can explain it is I didn't care. But I cared immensely about winning. I just kind of hit a thing that, yeah, it was just, I didn't.
So, okay, I want to get into that a little bit in terms of when you were focused on winning a world title or just, surfing the best you can competitively. Can you break down like did you have a training regime? What were your morning routines like? Were you training outside of the ocean? Were you meditating? Can you maybe break down what your mindset and what your daily practices are like when you are in full competitive mode?
Yeah, it's evolved over the years. Early in my career, I was very much a creature of habit, to the point where I'd go to the same restaurant every night, eat the same meal. Like, not from a superstitious standpoint. It was just like, if I won my heat, I'm going back to that restaurant. I'm having whatever I ate last night. I'm going to bed at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to follow the same routine. But over the years, it's just kind of evolved, especially having kids and taking them on tour with me. You don't have the freedom to be a jerk, be selfish. You know what I mean? Like, it is a very selfish thing, a surfing career. It's all about you. There's no team. There's no, it's you. So for me, traveling with a family, I think was the best kind of distraction that I could have, just because it took me away from overanalyzing and it helped me pull back, and I had good distractions. I was playing with my kids on the beach a half an hour before my heat, not freaking out about, wow, they really overscored that wave, man. I can't believe that. You know what I mean? I didn't get caught up in the judging or the BS or whatever was going on. I was just caught up in my family and my kids and having a good time. And I think that translated when I got in the water. I was relaxed and I wasn't stressed out, and I just had fun.
Yeah, I find that too. I'm really intrigued by you, Taylor, because you're one of the few longboarders I've seen like punting airs, okay, on a longboard. And when you see a photo of a longboard and you doing aerials on a longboard, it's, for the everyday sort of shortboard surfer, it's kind of like confronting, like, what? That's not possible. How's he doing that? Can I and then a question that came to my head when I seen sort of those images and those visuals, I'm like, why is that guy riding a longboard? Can you tell us about your transition to longboarding, and did you ever shortboard?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Coronado, California, and that's probably a big piece of the whole puzzle, in that Coronado doesn't have great waves all the time. So the guys who I grew up kind of looking up to, and Dan Mann happens to be one of them, they rode everything. It was never a longboarder or a shortboarder. It was you ride whatever the waves dictate, because for half the year it's really small in California, and then the other half you get some waves. So growing up in Coronado, it was just, I just kind of did what everybody else did and did what my heroes did. And, the guys I looked up to rode everything and just kind of let the surf pick what they wanted to ride. So for me, it was growing up like that. And then I guess as I got older, I just kind of wanted to do something a little bit different. The shortboard thing's super competitive, like gnarly competitive, cutthroat, soccer moms and dads, like. And for me, like I'm competitive, but that atmosphere it just doesn't suit for me. I get too stressed out and I don't do well. So for me, the shortboard thing competitively wasn't where I wanted to go. I fell in love with the longboard lifestyle. Like the guys were just traveling around and having a good time. Like they were just having fun. Like these guys were on tour and they're just out like having fun, partying and surfing and traveling all over the world. And, beach days at Sano, like that whole vibe for me was more me. But I still have that progressive nature of growing up riding shortboards and stuff. And I think like always just kind of jumping on whatever board suited. When I was put in a position where I kind of needed to ride a longboard because I had a contest or whatever was going on, but the surf was maybe a little bit more suited towards a shortboard, I just started kind of relaying shortboard maneuvers onto a longboard. Gotcha. And like watching 90s longboarding was very progressive. Like you had guys like Joey Hawkins and Jeff Kramer like doing big airs and stuff. And I drew a lot of inspiration from those guys and what they were doing. And yeah, that just kind of, I got intrigued by that. And then I got intrigued by how far can you kind of push that. And, I'm a bigger guy. So a longboard for me is kind of a bit smaller than it would be for your average guy. So I'm kind of in a place where I can push it a little bit further maybe than other people just because I have the leverage and the weight to do so. So yeah, I got it really into it and I just started having fun. I was like, man, I'm getting more waves. I can still do big turns. What's not to love? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know. I just like, this morning's a prime example. Like I surfed offshore winds, 6-foot waves, and guys on shortboards were struggling to catch them. But I was on a 9-foot longboard. I had no problem catching the waves and I could still do the turns. So it was like, I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds. And in California, crowds are pretty radical and it can be super frustrating. So, it just kind of worked for me. And yeah, and I fell in love with the feel of it. Like the feel of driving 9 foot of rail on a turn is insane. Amazing. Like it's such a good feeling to lock that rail and like feel the whole length of it draw out. It's just so different. And I don't know, I just fell in love with it. I'm sure it's the same thing that guys who ride like mid-lengths and stuff feel too. It's just a different feel. It's like, it's the same thing in a lot of sports. Like why does a snowboarder like a half pipe versus backcountry? They're on the same sort of board, you know what I mean? But why is one the other? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's all about whatever's fun for you and whatever kind of gets you going.
What sort of, on an average day, like today, for example, what sort of waves are you sourcing out? Like, will you have a crack at a hollow beach break?
100%, yeah. I'm just trying to find wherever's good. Like, there's nothing. Those longboards that I ride, like the really performance longboards, they'll fit in the same sort of thing as a shortboard. So I'm kind of searching out basically shortboard-esque waves, I guess, like beach breaks and points and faster down the line waves and bigger open canvases and yeah.
Okay, so for those that don't know, like I know we're talking a lot about surfing, which is fine by me because I love talking about surfing. But can you break down like the dimensions of a longboard that you're riding right now? Like what's your go-to longboard? And especially in regards to performance longboard, for those that don't know the difference between a performance longboard and just your standard sort of longboard.
Yeah, so I ride, basically there's different longboards for every different type of surf that you encounter. There's longboards for small waves, there's longboards for bigger waves. My small wave longboard is 9'6", 23 inches wide by 3 inches thick. It's a super standard dimension.
How many liters of foam in that? Do you know?
Gosh, I'm just curious. 78.1 maybe or something like that. It's a big board, like no joke. It's a big board. Maybe 68.1. Yeah.
No
But yeah, it's a
way.
big board, but it's like when you're riding a small wave, you need it.
Yeah, totally.
Like that's what I ride when it's like waist high, maybe chest high and under. And then when I'm riding like good surf, I'm on a 9.0 22 and a quarter by 2 5/8. And that's 60 liters.
Okay.
Which seems...
That's small.
Yeah, it seems big when you're comparing it to the 30-something liters that most shortboarders ride. But when you stretch that out to 9 feet, that's a pretty foiled out, like, the rails look like shortboard rails. Like it's very performance.
So you've got thin rails.
Yep.
Yeah, they're quite thin. Yeah, interesting.
Super thin rails.
And do you go for single fin or thruster type setups?
Small waves, single fin, and then bigger performance waves. We do a 2+1, so it's kind of as if I'm riding like a small size of shortboard side fins.
Gotcha.
With like a 6-inch center fin.
Wow.
So it's kind of a staggered, like the back fin's a bit longer, and that just gives you more hold on the nose.
Okay.
And then it kind of allows you to pivot a little bit more rather than really draw out a turn.
That's so cool.
It's a trip. It's...
Dude.
Yeah, they're fun. I mean, I try and get a lot of people onto them because they're so much fun.
Yeah. Oh man, I think I've wasted, like, I've only just recently started to get right into riding twin fins, and they're a lot flatter, a lot more foam in them, and I'm catching more waves, and they're looser, so turns feel more effortless, and I kind of feel like I've just wasted too many years on like standard shortboard thrusters.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, is it time for me to start transition into boards that are going to get me into more waves, especially when, like you said, it's competitive, and even the area that I live in, actually we get some pretty consistent swell year round, but it's always, sort of shoulder high, and then you have your bigger days where it's sort of heavier, but
It's just, look, why do we all surf? We all surf to have fun. Like that, if you can maximize your enjoyment by changing your equipment for the conditions, I think everybody should. Like, have the opportunity to expand your quiver. You have all bases covered. Like a 1 foot high tide day is all of a sudden fun, where any other day you would have skipped it and gone to the coffee shop.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you get involved with Firewire originally? Were they just a company that you really liked, or did they pick you up?
Yeah, so we went back and forth. Firewire kind of reached out to me to test a board like a long time back, something that Dan had created when they were first kind of doing longboards in their technology, and I tested it, and I was like, hey, I think there's definitely something here. It was one of the best feelings I'd ever had, but the overall shape wasn't exactly what I was used to. So I got kind of hung up on that. And then fast forward a few years, and I circled back to Firewire and Mark Bryce and just said, hey, I'd love the opportunity to work with you guys and try and design something. I think you guys have something crazy in this technology. I'm a huge fan of the sustainability aspect. I would love to get involved and try and kind of make something up. And Dan was the shaper, and I'm like, oh, I looked up to Dan growing up. Like, the opportunity to work with Dan is epic. Let's do it. So, they said yes, and off we went. And that's 11 or 12. Yeah, I think 11 years ago now.
And has Dan been your primary shaper ever since?
Dan's been my only shaper ever since. I haven't touched, I haven't ridden anything that's not Dan, apart from some shortboards and stuff that I get through Firewire or Slater Designs or Rob Machado's or anything like that. Dan's longboarding, all I've ridden is Dan's.
No.
Yep.
Okay, so here's my question to you. I mean, aside from the fact that Dan is just awesome, what's the key to a good relationship with a shaper then, as a surfer?
Open feedback. I feel like I can tell Dan anything, and there's no offense, there's no nothing. He takes it face value, and Dan doesn't have an ego or anything like some shapers might. Like, it's not like, oh, this is what's going to work and you need to ride this. It's like, okay, cool. Like, that didn't feel right. All right, well, then let's do this. What do you think about doing this? It's more like, what do you think, or how do you feel about rather than you should do this or we need to do that. It's more of an open discussion about design, what might work, what are you feeling, anything you want to try, let's get weird. You know, like the whole "let's get weird" thing was
is that the
was a conversation the other day. It's like, you know what, Dan, like with the no contest, let's get weird, and we're coming up with something else that we're going to start playing with. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like just being able to have that open conversation and with someone who I know rides a longboard really well makes it kind of, it's just easier. He just understands what I'm saying and the lines I want to draw.
How's it affected your personal relationship with him?
Good. Like, look, we were never really close growing up. He's a bit older than me. I was really close with his brother in elementary school. He's got a younger brother, Dougie, and me and Dougie were friends up until about high school. And then he went a water polo track and I went a surfing track, and we kind of separated there and went our own ways. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely brought us a bit closer. And I don't know, just kind of the background story of us growing up on the same island. Like, Coronado is a small town. There's not a whole lot of people there. Both of our dads were managers of Chart House restaurants. So we had that connection there too. Yeah, grew up in the same town, riding the same waves. We kind of are, in a way, kind of both searching for the same feelings in boards, I guess. Just because that's the surf that we grew up riding. We could just kind of have that background and the versatility aspect and wanting boards that can kind of work in anything. So it's cool.
So how would you reflect on your childhood then overall? It sounds pretty positive, but were these good times in your life, like, or was it just pretty standard?
It was pretty standard. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of being landlocked in not landlocked, but stuck on that island when I knew other places had really good waves. You know, like for anybody out there who does never been to Coronado or anything, like picture your Hollywood movie set of like a small town where all the houses kind of look the same and everybody's happy, and like that's Coronado. Wow. But for me, I just wasn't engaged in that sort of small town vibe. Like I wanted out bad. Like I knew there were good waves 20 minutes away and I didn't have a car yet. I was just like, it would drive me nuts.
Like so it was nuts. More just for waves.
More for waves, more just like I want to get out. Like I don't like feeling I'm not claustrophobic, but just like stuck somewhere. I just don't like that feeling. I just wanted to explore and adventure and go find other waves and meet other people. And you know what I mean? Like the longboard scene that I was really aspiring to get involved with was like La Jolla North. It was not in South San Diego. It just didn't, it was like, it just wasn't there. Like I needed to get up to like Cardiff and Swami's and Oceanside and San Onofre. Like that was that vibe I was chasing. I wasn't, it just like, I just wanted to get up there as fast as I could. And because my grandma lives in Oceanside and my mom's side of the family grew up there, I knew what was up here. I knew how good the waves were. Like, you know what I mean? I knew what I was missing out on. And I was just like, God, I just want to get out. Like, get me out of this town. It was what
was school like for you, Taylor? Like
school was cool. Yeah, school was all right. I mean, small town school, there's gossip, there's rumors. Everybody knows everything about everybody. Like,
were you a good student?
When I was there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't go. I mean, as I got better at surfing and it became, I started getting sponsorships at 13 and stuff, like when that sort of started to come into play and I realized what I wanted to do, school took a major backseat. Like I graduated with a 3.3 GPA. It's not like, it's not like I just didn't want to be there.
But you did you did graduate.
Yeah, I graduated. I did good in the classes that I attend, and I
aspiration to go into university.
No, I never wanted to. I never had any interest in it whatsoever. I had teachers and stuff tell me going through school, like, you need a backup plan. There's no such thing as making a living out of surfing. You know, like pretty hard, and where I could have taken the mentality of, you know, they're probably right. Like I should cover my butt here and do that. I took the opposite mentality of like a big F you and I'm going to prove you wrong and just sit back and watch type of a thing. Like, but that's just, you know, I don't conform well. That's just not me. I'm not that person. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it even if it's the wrong thing to do. And it's, you know, it's not going to work out. I'm still going to pursue it and see it through. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, whatever. But I'd rather at least go my own way and try to make it happen.
So you graduated high school, and can you just tell me about that first year out of high school? What did it look like for you, that transition into what some might describe as, you know, reality or the real world? Was it just straight away competition after competition?
Oh,
or what did you do in that
it
first?
was cushy for me. I was on the world tour already. I was traveling the world surfing.
At 18?
At 18. I was tied with Joel Tudor for winning the world title at 18, going into the final event of the year. And then he beat me in like the second heat. He smoked me, and that was the end of that. But yeah, for me, the transition, it was pretty easy for that year. And then, a couple years after that got a little bit rough, and things got weird, but I lost sponsorships and went down I just went down a really weird path. Our world tour got cut. Like I think I was either 19 or 20 and our world tour got dropped. We did not have a contest. Nothing. And I was like, I spent my whole, like, what? Like this, wait, what? Like I was just dumbfounded. So I just went down a weird path of just kind of partying and not caring. And I was like living out of my van, just surfing Sano every day, like no motivation, no drive, just like, I just want to surf all day, every day. And it was just a weird path. Like my parents were always supportive. I could have always come home and they would have been there with open arms. And I just didn't want to do that. I was just like on a different path. How long did that phase? How long did that phase last? A few years. Yeah, good few years. 3 years or something.
But still maintaining your sponsorship?
I'd lost my sponsor at that stage. When the world tour disappeared, my sponsors disappeared. I didn't have much going on. Like I wasn't, I went from an 18-year-old getting paid, it was like $50,000 a year from one of my sponsors, which, at 18, that's a lot of money when you don't have expenses and you're just traveling around the world surfing and having a good time. Like that was sick. And then, I went down to nothing. Like I was literally getting paid nothing. I had no income. I was just scraping money together or selling boards or whatever I had to do to like put gas in my car and go surf Sano again. And like bumming a night's sleep on friends' couches. And I just hit a patch where I just wasn't in a good place.
So when did it start to turn around then? What turned it around?
I got my stuff together and like rented a house with a bunch of friends, and that kind of kicked me into gear. I had all my friends were longboarders. They were all surfers. One of them was a filmer. That got a lot more motivation going. So we'd all go to the beach every day. We'd shoot every day. We'd film every day. Like we were making movies. The contest came back. I started winning contests. I was just like, that got me going again. And that really pulled me out of where I was heading. I think I was definitely going down a pretty dark hole. And just those friends and that kind of, I guess there was almost a competitive rivalry to create videos and stuff back then and like get the best part and go down that route. That kind of pulled me out of it. And I found sort of a drive and some motivation in there.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was a
so
weird.
You live in Oceans.
Yeah.
It's an interesting phase. So then when you sort of like when the tour came back for you guys, and would you say you were sort of getting closer to what, your late 20s, early 30s?
Yeah, I was probably mid 20s about then when it was all sort of coming back. I was getting new sponsors. I was kind of finding my feet a bit, I guess you could say. Just everything
And then-
seemed
and
like
then-
there was a path. All of a sudden there was this path again. Like I can still have that goal. That goal is still real. They're still crowning world champions. You know, that was kind of all open.
And then at what stage did you meet your wife, if you don't mind me asking?
I
in all
met
this?
my wife in 2007.
Okay.
And that changed everything for me.
Okay, why?
I had something else that mattered.
Cool.
Like
Nice
that,
one,
and
brother.
it's a weird thing to say, but I was just, for so long, surfing was all that mattered. Like I didn't really care about myself. I wasn't there to care of myself. It was all about surfing. And then when I met my wife, I just had this other thing, this other happiness that was there that I hadn't. It just, I guess maybe I'd been searching for it. I don't know, but it just, everything changed.
And you mentioned that she's Australian.
Yep.
Did you meet her in Australia, or
I did. I met her at Noosa, and we both had lost in the contest, and we were at the bar
in Hastings Street, Noosa?
at Cafe Le Monde in Hastings Street, Noosa.
No way.
Drinking mango
Cafe Le
tangos
Monde.
out of a jug. Yeah, that was that was the meeting point. And then we'd kind of locked eyes in France a year or two before that. But I actually, someone told me that she was actually her brother's girlfriend for some weird reason. And then I was like, got out of there. But yeah, and then we met a couple years later, and yeah, it was all good. And then, after that night, we were living together 3 days later.
Amazing, bro.
Yeah.
So she was or is a competitive longboarder as well?
Yeah, she's a competitive longboarder. She's Australian. She's won an Australian title. She was on the Women's World Tour for years. She kind of stepped back from competition, having babies. Having two kids definitely put a backseat to that. And then, she got really into the real estate thing. She wrote a book. Yeah, she's a full entrepreneur. She loves getting in and doing things and creating things. So that's kind of her passion. And we still surf every single day, but the competitive side just not quite there. And she loves the entrepreneurial side and going surfing for fun.
How important do you think it is for a couple to have similar interests?
I think it's pretty huge. For me, being a surfer, I think it's huge. It makes it a lot easier. She understands, hey, the waves are good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not an argument of I need to go surfing, and she's not a surfer and going, why? You know what I mean? Like it's the waves are good. Let's go. Let's take the kids to the beach and we'll swap off for the next 3 hours because the waves are good. Like that, for us, that makes our relationship so much easier because we're both so much happier when we surf. We're getting exercise. We're outdoors. Our kids are on the beach. Like everybody's getting tired. It helps the day flow better, and everybody's in a better mood.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear that. And you said that you've taken your family on the tour with you and traveling to various locations around the world. Like, how gnarly is that? Like, is that that would have been really challenging, yeah?
In the beginning, it was a little tough, just trying to change the way that I did things. I guess I was so selfish prior to that. It was all about me, where I wanted to eat, what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it. And taking the family along altered that.
Who said it? Who reflected that selfishness though? Was that feedback you were getting from your family?
No, that was me. I know how selfish you have to be. Like you have to be, because it has to be about you, because you're the one who's going to make it happen. And if it's something that's going to give you a mental or a whatever edge, you need to do it. You know what I mean? Like it's a.
So did you have guilt or shame around that?
Yeah, I felt pretty guilty about it at times, but at times I was like, I'm spinning, you know what I mean? Like this is like a breaking point for me. Like if prior to winning a world title, it was like, if I win a world title, everything's going to change. I had this perception that winning a world title changed your whole career path, and that one world title would do that. And so for me, I was like, I'm being a dick, I'm being selfish, but I need to get this. I was just consumed with it.
But were you creating that in your own mind, or were you actually feeling the pressure from friends and family?
I don't know. I overanalyze everything, so I was probably creating a lot of it in my own head. But yeah, it's just a different. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it was all in my own head. And
I don't know. Sorry, I'm kind of like hassling you a little bit there with that, but
no, I don't know.
Because...
It's my wife's always been super supportive. Like there was never any you're being selfish or anything. Like she gets it. You know, her dad competed for years. Her brothers competed for years. Like they get it. She's been around it. She knows what it's like. Yeah. And she competes as a fellow competitor. Like she knows the mental kind of place that you need to put yourself and the routines or whatever it is that you need to go through to get there. And she's always been understanding and giving me the space when I need the space or the comfort when I need the comfort.
So after 3 world titles, though, you said you thought that 1 world title was going to change everything, and you said it sort of didn't. But has 3 world titles changed everything?
I think from a different perspective now, having them, I think that it just adds longevity to your career. I don't think that it necessarily changes anything other than the longevity. I think it gives you an opportunity to lengthen what you have and create different avenues and different doors open. But having this mindset of once you're world champion, you're set for life, which is kind of where my mindset was, is so false. It's ridiculous. Like I won a world title and I think I lost my main sponsor like 2 years later. Like just, you know what I mean? Like I just won the world title, but what? Like just, yeah, but that's reality. Like it's not, a world title doesn't set you up for life. It's an opportunity for you to open more doors, gain more exposure, create sort of a legacy. It's an opportunity for you to get going. Like it's kind of a kick in the pants. Like, hey, here's your chance. Now what do you do with it for the 12 months after you win your world title is what changes things. That win doesn't change anything. It just opens the door to change.
That's so interesting. Dude, you mentioned Noosa before, and I was thinking about that, that point break. I mean, I've actually seen Noosa point, on a cyclone swell firing in the 6-foot range. It doesn't happen. Well, it happens, once every few years,
Yeah.
What would you rate as your favorite, longboard wave in the world?
At Noosa, when the points are doing that at Noosa, that's right up there. Yeah, we got when was that? Cyclone Oma. A couple. Yeah, I don't know if that was last year, the year before. I was up there for a month straight, and the waves were firing, and I got the points lining up. The sand was incredible. When it's like that, it's insane. If you could delete a few people, that would be mental, and it would definitely be my favorite wave in the world. But that point break, just the sheer.
So,
I don't know, it's just majestic.
Longboard, it is majestic. That whole point's so beautiful with the national park there. Sorry to cut you off. So, even on your longboard, were you one of the guys taking off right at the point at National Park there? Or they call it Nationals or whatever.
Yeah.
You take off behind the corner,
take off there, and I was going all the way through first point.
So you were doing that on a longboard?
Yep.
Because that gets gnarly steep.
Yeah, you get in earlier on a longboard, so you're not taking such a critical drop. You can kind of knife in sideways, use the length of your rail to kind of draw your way up the face. And yeah, it's almost easier. Being completely honest with you, like think about getting into a wave early with like a chip shot or taking off onto the lip. Yeah. What's easier?
Yeah, exactly. As someone who's been in the surf a lot, how do you negotiate crowds? And because I'm going to just relate my experience, and I think a lot of other shortboarders will agree with me. Like there's times in the surf where, yes, there's I guess an element of envy or frustration with those guys on longboards who are getting the nice roll in, 30 feet ahead of everyone else. What's your approach?
I have been there when I ride a shortboard, and there's certain individuals on larger equipment that kind of have that mentality of I can sit further out and take it, therefore it's my wave. That drives me nuts. When I'm on a longboard, I'm really conscious because I ride a shortboard that I try to make sure I'm not that guy. And also I'm a representative for longboarding worldwide, right? So
there you are.
I'm kind of an example. So if I'm the guy doing it, then like, what does that make me? Like, I'm setting a bad example for any longboarder out there. So I don't want to be that guy to begin with. And then also, like, I'll sit out, like, generally when it's going to be good if there's a bunch of shortboarders out because the waves are bigger and, the surf's probably better. I'll sit and I'll be super patient, like annoyingly patient, like half an hour in between waves or 15 minutes, like no problem. I'm happy to sit and wait my turn, but I'm going to get the best wave that comes in because I've been sitting there waiting for it. And when it's my turn, it's my turn. You know what I mean? Gotcha. Like I very much take that mentality of if you wait your turn, it's your wave, and it doesn't matter who you are or how good you are. If you're going to be that patient and do that, if you want to sit further out, that's fine, but be conscious of who's sitting on the inside, who you just paddled past to get there, and make sure, you're letting 4 or 5 set waves go through so that everybody kind of at least gets an opportunity to catch one of those waves. And if they paddle for it and miss it, well, that's kind of on them. But yeah, I'm super, super patient, like especially at waves like that, where I know that there's a lot of people trying to get their fill and there's not that many waves. I'll wait my turn. I'm quality over quantity all day long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll catch like 5 waves in 2 hours and be super stoked.
Really?
Yeah. Be super stoked because I got 5 great waves. That's it. Like, to me, quality is better than quantity. A lot of people feel the other way, and that's cool, and go for it. If you want to sit on the inside and do that and catch 100 waves, like, that's cool. I would way rather have a perfect set wave over 20 inside waves. And I'll wait for it, and, I'll be respectful about it.
Dude, I love that you're putting those messages out there in the world. And I guess you are really an ambassador for longboarding worldwide. Does that responsibility weigh heavily on you sometimes? Do you feel like you're more subject to judgment with your behavior in the surf?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I mind my P's and Q's probably more than I would. I'm just really conscious of it. That's all. Like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, no.
Because I ride a shortboard and I see it, and I'm on the other side of the equation, and that other side sucks. It's not fair. So and it doesn't benefit anybody being in that mentality. Like, a lot of times there'll be that guy who's on a bigger piece of equipment. When he paddles out, the whole energy of the lineup can change. And that's just not good. Like, you're all out there to have fun. Like, you can have a really good energy going as long as everybody's being respectful, and it just takes one person to change everybody's day. And that knock-on effect that can carry on down the line, and once people get out of the water when they've had a bad surf because of that, like, think about how many people your actions could potentially affect. Even though it's something minor as, someone just having a bad surf. Like, when you have a bad surf, you might go home and be grumpy with your family, or to someone at a supermarket who walks in front of you with their cart, or, you know what I mean? It can just be a knock-on effect, and it's unnecessary. It's all for, a few waves?
It never ceases to amaze me how you can feel the energy in a lineup when you paddle out, even if no one's saying anything. It's bizarre how we all feel it. Sometimes you can paddle out into a lineup and no one's said a word, and it can feel like really cold, uncomfortable energy out there. Then there's sometimes, and I don't even know why, you paddle out and you just feel you can tell everyone is feeling really good, and not that there was an incident or anything like that. It's really strong. And I think it's this manifestation of how surfing is connecting one another through the environment. And, a famous quote by surfer Sean Thompson once, he said that surfers got to remember that we are all connected by the ocean when we're out in the water together. And, I just liked it. And I like what you're saying.
Makes sense.
How big are you, dude? Like, what are your dimensions, man? You're like 6'6" or something?
6'4", 6'5", somewhere in there.
6'5".
Somewhere in there. And, on a good day, I'm 200 pounds.
See,
On a
I'm
bad
not good
day,
with
on
pounds.
215, 220, yeah.
Wow, man. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense too. Like I can't. That's why longboards would have really felt good under you immediately.
For sure. Like my standard
I know
shortboard's
you started wrong.
6'4". You know what I mean? Like my step up would be like 6'8", 6'10". Like it's just, yeah. And I still ride all that like all the time. Anytime the waves are good enough, I'm on that equipment. I just, I found a way to make a career.
So you're happy to step up in bigger waves? Like have you surfed in Hawaii, places like Pipe and Sunset and Haleiwa?
Yeah, I've surfed all that. I'm not a huge fan of Hawaii just because of the crowds and the energy. I love Hawaii. The lineups at places like Pipe I don't sit well out there.
It's intense.
The energy is just not right for me personally.
Well, what's your dream setup then? I want to know what's your dream surfing location or region?
Pipe with nobody out. On a good day, like on it, just for the sheer fact that it would never happen, and it's a dream.
What are you going to surf Pipe on then?
I surf it on the same board I rode out here today, just a 9.0 TJ Pro model from Firewire. To ride exactly what I ride.
And chip in on second reef on a bigger day.
No, I'd like to surf like a good backdoor day. They had one kind of earlier this year that looked really good. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to. I mean, I've surfed it a handful of times, and I've gotten a few fun waves, but never like big, perfect, Pipe Masters style backdoor. I'd love to. Yeah, I just love the opportunity to get it with nobody out and actually be able to approach it. But probably won't happen.
Amazing. How do you feel like, with all this like technology that goes into the surfboards you ride and the thought and the design, how do you feel when you see someone like Jamie O'Brien on a soft top at 8 to 10 foot pipeline?
I'm really glad he doesn't want to do the longboard tour. And I'm really glad that I'm not out there at Pipe and he's getting way better waves than me on a soft top. Like that's just a testament to how good of a surfer Jamie is. Like, I've always said he's one of the most talented surfers to ever walk the planet. He has a different approach and he has a ton of fun. But like he is that good. Like try to think about riding a soft top like that. And then think about putting it in that wave, like that deep in a barrel and plastic fins, and it's nuts. Like he's a freak. He's so good. He's a freak.
You don't think it's making a mockery of surfboard design?
I think it's proving the point that it's just about fun.
Yeah.
That's why we all surf. It's about fun. It's whatever brings you the most enjoyment. I think it can be said with any sort of design modifications, like whether you ride something short and fat and wide, or you ride something, your 6.0 thruster, or you ride a mid-length, or you ride a longboard, whatever it is, it can all kind of be made fun of. But at the same time, it's about enjoying yourself in the ocean.
Dude, it's all about enjoying yourself in the ocean. That's almost like a good way to end, I reckon, Taylor.
Yeah, perfect.
How you feeling?
I'm good. Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. I was stoked to get to talk about other things and funny stuff and experiences.
Actually, one thing I want to talk to you sort of a little bit off topic is like, would you mind telling us like what the vibe's like over in California at the moment, given the COVID situation and maybe the political climate of America right now? How are you feeling it?
Yeah.
How are you finding it?
Honestly, we came from Australia and I was pretty tripped out just even boarding a flight to come back here. Like, what are we doing? Why are we leaving beautiful summer Australia with minimal cases to go to the epicenter of the whole fiasco? And on top of that, the whole political instability and stuff going on. But arriving here, it's weird. It's super weird. But for our lifestyle of going to the beach and going home mostly, with kids, it's not that different.
Okay.
But that being said, like we're kind of live in a bubble. like drive down the street and go to the beach and drive home. Like, there's a lot of people hurting. It's definitely a weird vibe. You don't see people smile anymore because everybody has a mask on. Like,
yeah,
it's not good. It's not healthy. It is really weird. And the political side of things, and with what's about to happen tomorrow or is it tomorrow, the next day with the inauguration and stuff. And like, I've got friends who are running around buying generators and freaking out that there's going to be martial law, and it's all, like, we don't know what's going to happen. It's the end of the, it's just like, what? Like, it's weird. It's really weird for sure. But at the same time, I think that there's a lot of hope coming out now. With the vaccine, with the political situation and the vaccine, I think that people are kind of letting a little bit of hope show now. And I also think people are just tired of being secluded and socially distant. I think people are just at their wits' end. Like, I've lost a few friends through this thing to, just because they weren't in a good place to begin with. And and it's just like, a couple really close friends, and I'm like, man, I didn't even know. And it was just like, and some of them had to do with the fact that they didn't allow surfing, and that was their escape. And that's what eventually drove them back down the path that took them from us. So it's weird. It's been hard to be, to kind of go to the beach and not see certain friends every morning that you used to see. And it's just, it's weird for sure. But, I think there's a lot of hope, and, the whole thing's kind of exposed a lot of problems that America had underneath the surface with inequality and racial justice and all sorts of stuff. So I think that part of the path to healing is, ripping off the Band-Aid and seeing the wound and trying to kind of move forward. So at least that conversation's being had.
Yeah, man. And thanks for sharing that. I'm sorry to hear that.
I think everybody has,
I've been touched by it as well. In the last 6 months. It's really scary. The face mask wearing in Australia, our restrictions are probably a bit lighter than America because our cases are lower.
Yep.
But when you're in Australia, and now going back to the States, so you find there's people are more vigilant with the face mask wearing, or is it?
Well, it's mandatory here now. So,
okay.
99% of people are wearing them outside, walking around and stuff. None of the surfers are wearing them at the beach. Obviously, you're going surfing, but for the most part, you go into a shop, you're not going in the shop without one. Like, period. There's zero. Yeah. So, most people are wearing them. Like, I have parents who are in the at-risk category, so we wear masks around them. They wear masks. We don't hang out indoors together. We're cautious, for sure.
Yeah.
You just have to respect, like, look, the virus probably won't do much to me. I'm not in the at-risk category. I'm healthy, whatever, but it's the knock-on effect of, could I transfer it to so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and it ended up affecting someone's family and someone's loved one. And at the end of the day, those are all loved people. They're all someone's brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandparent, mom, dad. It's just the right thing to do, to care about other people.
That's a beautiful message. I agree. I think it's just a kind thing to do, whether you're at risk or not. It's not a big deal. It's like,
you know what I mean? Is it really that big of a deal to put on a mask? It's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just keeping kindness at the forefront, and totally. I think that's a really key message. I think, people can have polarized opinions on it. That's fine. But, let's just all be kind and respectful. So it's really nice,
totally. Just understand where the other person's coming from and, move forward. Agree to disagree or, whatever.
It's good, man. Now, listen, man, it's been epic. And I ask all guests to come to the podcast with a cause or a philosophy or a social enterprise or something they want to advocate for. So what would you like to advocate for today?
I would say I want to advocate for sustainability, for
I like that.
You know, that's a big reason why I ended up partnering with Firewire. Their sustainability, their environmental thought process, and, you know, trying to limit your impact on the environment, I think is a huge cause. And there's a ton of options out there now to be sustainable and to reduce your single-use plastic use, or, you know, getting bags at the grocery store, whatever it may be. There's so many different ways to change, and you don't have to completely change the way you do things, but even just a small portion of what you do, like stop buying plastic water bottles. That's it. Just do that one thing. It helps. And if everybody does one little thing to help, we'll get there in the end.
Yes, brother. And it's just a nice way to live too. It just feels
Totally.
good.
It's healthier. It's not just healthier for the planet, it's healthier for the individual. So if you're not that concerned about climate change or whatever, be concerned about you. Take care of yourself. Plastic's not good for you.
Nice. Cool. It's true. And like often, I was talking to a friend the other day, like we talk about sustainability, and often that's linked to, you know, environmental conservation, but we often forget about the sustainability of the individual. And you know, what can a human do to live sustainably? You know, and practices such as surfing, you know, exercising, eating nutrient-dense diets, trying to lose some weight, maybe cutting down on drinking, smoking. This is sustainable living, and especially during a pandemic, anything that's going to build your physical resilience as well is never a bad thing.
100%. So, couldn't agree with that more.
Yes, brother.
Epic.
So listen, man, I'll put a link. I'll put a link in Taylor's episode show notes for some sustainable ways that you can live. I'll put a link to Firewire surfboards as well. And you can find Taylor's episode on terriblehappytalks.com. There's also links to the various other platforms that you can find this podcast, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Overcast, Google Podcast, TuneIn Radio, and iHeartRadio. And you can choose the platform that works best for your device. It's always appreciated if you could subscribe and write a review. But if you don't, I'm just stoked that you listen anyway. And yeah, man, Taylor, listen. I've got a gift for you, and it's an easy one because you're in California, and our friends at Indosol will be sending you a pair of flip-flops or slides.
No way, thanks.
And so hopefully, I'm sure, have you got a massive size foot?
12 and a half, 13.
Dude, I don't know if they make them that big.
A 12 and like in sandals, I'm a 12.
I'm joking. So yeah, they'll send you a pair. They give every guest a pair of shoes, and just want to thanks so much for being on. And yeah, man, big love and respect, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciated it.
So I'll just get you to stay on the line, Taylor, and yeah, man, catch up.